All right. Good morning, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving. I'm Scott Moon for scottmoonrider.com. And I think let's try it again. Good morning. Happy Thanksgiving. Scott Moon from scottmoonrider.com. Every time I start one of these, about 2 seconds after I start talking, the little live button pops up. So, doing a live stream and just got back from Colorado. So, there's several things that I'd like to talk about just for fun, some general interest stuff, like conversation, like we were having coffee together. So, first things first, this coffee mug, you may have seen it on other podcasts. It looks really ominous and mysterious with the fleur de lis there, but this is one of my favorite cups. My oldest daughter, got on a rowing trip, uh, rowing for college for Wichita State, and bought it at the Arch in St. Louis. So that's what the fleur de lis is for. So anyway, so it's Thanksgiving today. We did an early trip where we went to Colorado to visit some of my family in the Loveland, um, Fort Collins area. I wanted to look at that area. I've always kind of wanted to move to Colorado and check it out. You know, I grew up in Western Kansas where we would vacation there all the time. So, um, as I was getting ready to start this uh, video cast, video vlog, um, I put in little tags. So one of them I put in was um, logjam on I-70. Another one was Canorado and some other things. So I'm going to hit those before I forget because I will forget. So to jump all the way to the end of the story, on the way back, so it's a 10-hour drive with two small kids and my wife, and it wasn't too bad. Although, you know, I share out the devices and phones and things with my kids so that, you know, they're entertained and whatnot. Some of it, which means I can't listen to my audiobooks. And then also I want to have conversation with Jen, um, unless she's wiped out and trying to take a nap in the huge long drive. But so no audiobooks. Normally, if I had to drive by myself, doing a 10-hour drive would be nothing at all because um, I like audiobooks. So so I'm just driving in silence a lot of the time, unless I'm talking. Um, and So you do little neat tricks. Last time I made this trip, I did a deal where every 10 minutes I would take a sip of coffee, or 10 miles. I would set my odometer for 10 miles. I drive 10 miles, take one sip, and then drive another 10 miles. And the reason was I didn't want to stop to go to the bathroom 1,000 times. And you can drink a lot of coffee in in a in a 10-hour drive. So I do that. I daydream. I try to think about books, but mostly I just try to relax and kind of be in the moment. Um, Something we don't do a lot, and I don't because I'm always overscheduled. I'm always trying to be very productive. I write on my phone. I read on my phone. I drive here. I do my work. I go to work out. Everything's multitask all the time. So we go through there, and on our way back, being an extremely impatient person because I feel like I'm always out of time. We're cruising along. We get past Hays, Kansas, and there's road cones. And this is the day before Thanksgiving. So there are road cones taking I-70 down to one lane. Um, Google said yesterday that there was 48 million people traveling yesterday in the United States. So 48 million people. I'm not sure how many of them were cutting across Kansas, but I know that every place we stopped at the Oasis truck stop in Colby, Kansas, which is one of those massive truck stop things, like 50 gas pumps and, you know, a small general store and 5 restaurants and all that. And it was just packed to the gills with people. I mean, standing room only, you know, and lots of traffic. So we get to these road cones at Hays and we're cruising along, you know, and speed limit 75, speed of traffic's probably 85. And all of a sudden, everybody stops. So I hit the brakes. I drive a Toyota FJ Cruiser. If you've ever driven one, they're kind of tall and they're made for off-road. And so when you jam on the brakes going 80, 85 miles an hour in one of those, you're definitely putting the nose to the ground and alarming passengers. Let's just say. So we get stopped, and now we're in a parking lot in Kansas with cars stretching as far as the eye can see. So in that part of Kansas, you know, that's got to be at least 5 to 10 miles that you can see. Just because you can probably see further if you had a perfect shot, but with the terrain a little bit rolling here and there, you can see the road snaking off over the horizon and beyond. And then we just creep along at a walking pace for so long that I eventually called the Kansas Highway Patrol and let them know. I said, hey, if you got any emergency vehicles coming this way, you might want to factor this into your plans, because there is no movement going on here. Later, I realized I could have probably hopped the lane and driven in the left lane, which would have caused a mass, not panic, but swarm of people trying to get around the traffic, because there was nothing wrong with the left lane. They just painted the lines. I thought that maybe there was an accident up there or whatever, but we patiently got through there, and I didn't swear at all, I don't think, and I was pretty calm, all things considered. If you know me, that, like, my worst nightmare would literally be getting caught in a 50-mile traffic jam. So that's that. That's traffic jam on I-70. That's in the description of this podcast in the little YouTube note thing, hashtags, whatever. But the other thing that is interesting, and I find this fascinating from a storytelling perspective or a story listening perspective, is Canorado. So if you've driven across Kansas on I-70, one, you'll notice it is extremely, extremely flat, and there is nothing out there. For me, it's not so bad. I'm used to long stretches of nothing to look at. I mean, the scenery is beautiful because you can see for so far. You get these awesome sunsets. You get a little bit of clouds shooting across the sky, and it's really impressive. I mean, it's big sky country, literally. But so you get to a little town near the Kansas-Colorado border. Actually, this is before Hays, way back. Just past the Kansas-Colorado border, on the Kansas side, there's a town called Canorado, Kansas, Colorado. Very creative. But why I always notice this town, besides its interesting name, is out in the middle of this field, there's a truck. And it's been there for a while. I mean, at least twice this year I've driven by. And it's like a semi-truck, a tractor trailer. Different people call them different things. I always called it a semi-truck, 18-wheeler, a big rig. And it is parked in the middle of this field, just abandoned, like, a half mile out in the middle of nowhere. And I see it every time, and I wonder about that truck. I have a story I'm writing involving a trucker, an alien invasion, and a mysterious possible alien runaway in a bunch of people. And there's a section where they're on I-70. And I wrote the story before I saw this truck, but it is very interesting that you write a story about an alien invasion, what would happen. Because the opening scene, they're driving at night towards Colorado, and he picks up a hitchhiker, who's strange and mysterious, and gets a lot of radio traffic on the CB from the other truckers and whatnot, talking about, hey, watch the sky, this, that, and the other thing. And the Highway Patrol, Kansas and Colorado Highway Patrol, start stopping cars and turning them around. Sees all these meteor storms in the horizon way off in the distance towards the mountains. And the story goes on from there. But so having written that story and then seeing this big semi truck just parked in the middle of a field for no reason and just abandoned there is very interesting to me. So that's one thing I wanted to just share about. I mean, it doesn't really mean anything, but I find it interesting. Since you're watching this, maybe you want to go deep inside the moon brain and figure out what kind of weird strangeness is in there. So that's that. So Colorado. I love Colorado. I grew up, like I said, in western Kansas, and 4 or 5 times a year we would go to Colorado for hiking or snow skiing or different things. When I was in high school, my best friend moved out there, Robert Vaughn, and I would drive out there to Colorado Springs and see him a couple times a year. You ever seen my blue guitar with the white dragon on it? I ordered it from Jackson, from a store in Colorado Springs. So I had to drive out there, order the guitar, and I drew the artwork on it and sent it off to Jackson, and they custom made it, shipped it to Colorado Springs, and I went and picked it up. So lots of memories. Now I have some family members that live in Colorado, some way up in the mountains, like 9,000-10,000 feet is where their house is. And you put it in 4-wheel drive to get up to their house, literally. And then I have some that live in the Loveland Fort Collins area, and they've of course been trying to talk me into moving out there, maybe retiring and trying to do a lateral transfer to a law enforcement job out there or something like that. Or maybe the writing takes off and I just retire in Colorado. So Jen hasn't really, this is her second trip to Colorado. And we thought, if we're going to make that kind of leap, we probably better go take a look around. So we did. We had a good time. Colorado's a lot different than I remember it in lots of ways. Really cool. All the people there were super, super nice. Everybody very dog friendly. It's a dog friendly state. Everywhere you go, there's someone has their dog with them. So I love all that. Good times. I could totally live in Colorado. We'll see. It may be that where I'm living now is fine because I got a nice house. Cost of living's really good, and maybe when I retire, I just travel a lot more. That would probably be cool because then I could go to Colorado. I could go out to the East Coast. I could go Northwest. Go international, and things like that. So that's the big part of our trip. Had a great time seeing family. Didn't get to see everybody. Wasn't able to see my dad, but we saw him a few months ago, and we'll go out and see him again. And my older kids weren't able to go because of work and school, so we couldn't quite get everybody out there and whatnot. So, story thoughts and things. What I'm pushing on, I just submitted my story to Jason Ansbach and Nick Cole for the Order of the Centurion, which is a series they're just now starting to launch. The first one's coming out. I'll put some information in the written part of this. And I was going to see if I can transcribe this using my voice dictation app. So it's got to do that. Well, we'll try that next time. I'll just turn it on and see what it records. So the working title of my story for that series is called Battle Planet. It'll probably be the fourth, fifth, or sixth one in the series out. It's an extremely awesome story that I love very, very much. Very challenging to write artistically. It was written in present person first tense, which is kind of a cool style. It sounds scary if you're not into that grammar stuff, but basically it's written in well, I'll just let anybody's interested read it, but it's very fast paced, very deep into the character, and an awesome story setting I've always been fascinated with. So basically, it's kind of a World War I type story set in space on this place called the Battle Planet, where they're mired in trench warfare type of stuff, and they're trying to force maneuver warfare on it. But there's lots of things. I mean, they could, using science fiction type of technology, they could orbital bombard it. They could do lots of different things, but there's a lot of damage that comes from that type of warfare. So they're trying to just fight out this kind of semi-traditional war using, some mechs and different stuff like that. And, all that technology. So really cool story. Right now, I'm finishing the Forever Siren, which is the third book in the SMC Marauders series. I know several close family and friends and stuff at least have personally asked me many, many times if I'm going to finish that or when I'm going to get to it. And I'm working on it. So here's why that's taken so long. In 2017, in the 2016, 2017, I had several amazing opportunities given to me as a writer because of people I met through the Keystroke Medium show and just friends I met at some conferences and stuff. And those three opportunities were writing with Richard Fox, so the Terran Strike Marines, which a lot of people are really loving, and I'm really, really thankful to get that. People are showing lots of good support in that series, Terran Strike Marines, and that's linked to the Ember War universe by Richard Fox. He writes a detailed outline. I write like a couple of drafts. Usually I send him about my third draft, and then he goes through and edits it and throws out some stuff he doesn't like or doesn't fit the story, puts in stuff that needs to be there, goes through it. It's his series, it's his universe. He has, obviously final decision on everything, and he makes sure all the canon is correct, and basically does whatever he wants to it. But obviously my contribution to those stories is pretty huge because I write all the words from his outline. He writes very good detailed outlines. He does it differently than I do it, um, because he does it by character arc, which sometimes throws me off. But fortunately, he's there to correct that or fix things if I go a little bit and don't quite meet them up where they're supposed to go. So really love doing that. So opportunity one that came to me was Richard Fox, and then Craig Martelle. The people might know him from the 20 books to 50K or his In Times Alaska series or his other 50 books that he has published now, I think, or something like that. And we had talked about doing a version of Firefly because it's really popular. A lot of people seem to like it. We did a version of that that's set in a mining town. It's kind of a space opera western. Wrote 12 books. I basically wrote 9 of the books with the same thing. Like, so in that series, Craig would write the first book and said, "Can you write in this series?" I said, "Yeah, I can do that." After I read his story, so I write some, and then I send them to him. He makes whatever changes he can do. Sends it to his awesome just-in-time readers who, you send him. I send him a 30,000 word story. Craig reads it, and then he sends it to his small group of readers he has to. They're like beta readers, but they're called just-in-time readers because they're a little bit different. They're more special, I think, than normal beta readers because they come back in a day, having read the whole book with lots of comments and observations and corrections that I think could be made. So that's an amazing process. And Craig, and the same with Richard Fox, they pay for all the professional editing, they pay for all the book covers, all of that stuff. And so we did Dark Landing. So Richard Fox, Craig Martelle, and then I was also invited to write in the Galaxy's Edge series with Jason Anspach, Nick Cole, Jason Anspach, however you want to say it. They have an amazing writing universe that they've created, and they wanted to do this offshoot, which is basically kind of like Medal of Honor stories. So, heroes making the ultimate sacrifice, and that brings us back to Battle Planet. So all those things are fabulous opportunities. Most writers would dream of having them, and I feel very lucky. I love it every day. Allows me to do things with writing that I wouldn't do otherwise. The downside is that I haven't worked on my own writing that much. And what I've found for me personally is that there's not a huge jump. So, like the people that read all of Richard Fox's books that I've done with Richard Fox and Craig and Nick and Jason. Well, of course, I haven't published any with Nick and Jason yet, but so we'll see how that goes. But there's not a huge jump. So, like, not everybody that reads, not all of Richard's fans or Craig's fans then go on to read my books, which would be great if they did because they have a lot of fans. So, professionally, from a writer standpoint, those are huge opportunities. It does give me more visibility, being able to reach out and touch their fan base. But in the end, if I want to retire from my current day job and write full time, which has been my life's dream, I need to publish some things in my own universe, doing my own thing and whatnot. So I have more collaborative projects lined up, probably more than I can ever get caught up on, to be honest. And I'm trying to finish some of my own stories. I have several great series that I've started that are just me, my passion projects. And I'm thinking that the rest of 2018 and 2019, I'll probably need to put more time into those. So I don't know if hopefully that's interesting to you, and hopefully that you want to read them. The first order of business is my finishing, or at least the third book in the SMC Marauder series will be a final book. So, I mean, you can be done with the series. It'll have enough resolution. I may do the Chris Fox thing where I do a trilogy that story arc is basically complete, and then another trilogy and so on, as long as people want to keep reading them. So I'm going to finish that third book, and then I'm looking at my Dragon Anywhere dictation to see if it makes a written copy of what I'm talking about. And it's pretty gnarly because it's jumping all over the place. Some of what I say apparently looks like voice commands to the program, and there's no punctuation or anything in it, so that's probably worthless. So my basically Space Marine series. Um, Next, I'm going to move on to my Alien Invasion series, which I talked about in the beginning of the show with the whole semi truck and the truckers and the aliens coming down and stuff, because I love that story. And I have several other things. But anyway, happy Thanksgiving. I had a great trip. I wish I would have seen more of my friends and family than I did, but you can't see everybody every time. And now I'm going to go to work because I work on Thanksgiving. It's my regular scheduled day, and I get holiday pay. So hopefully that'll make it a little bit better. Usually people are very nice on Thanksgiving. I imagine there will be one or two calls that are crazy and ridiculous, but one day at a time, uh, one call at a time as far as work. So I'm going to go ahead and be done with this. I'm going to finish writing my newsletter, which I'm going to do much better with hopefully in the future. Um, Staying in communication with all my friends and family and readers and everybody. And then I'm going to try to hopefully do a little tiny bit of writing, maybe do some yoga if I have time before work, and then get to work and do my thing. So everybody take care. God bless. Never take a day for granted. Never take the people in your life for granted that you love, and have a great day.